Welcome home to Homespun, a weekly internet gathering of family, friends, and businesses from Platte County. Our purpose is to connect our community and showcase the colorful threads that run through our tapestry. Grab a warm cup of hometown goodness, sit back, put your feet up, and visit with us a while. I'm your host, Mark DeLapp, and I bring to you portions of interviews from some of our own. Welcome home, Platte County, to Homespun. We are out here at the Mantle Satellite Ranch. I guess that's what you'd call it. With, and do you want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Kayla Mantle.
Kayla.
Nick Mantle.
And Nick. And they are a young couple that has a pretty big job, and we welcome them to Homespun today. And a little later on in the program, you'll watch Nick actually be able to do some of the training he does. But tell me exactly what you guys do.
Well, we're contracted with the Bureau of Land Management to train and manage wild horses, manage the wild horse facility here. So our main goal is to get these horses gentle enough and in a position where the average person can go ahead and take them home and continue on with their education and training and get them off the range where they're running out of food and they're overpopulating, and get them into good homes.
Wow, what a great idea. How many wild, and these are Mustangs, correct? Mm-hmm. And how many wild Mustangs can you estimate that are running out on the ranges here in Wyoming?
I'm not sure what their last count might have been. I know at one point they were down to 10,000, but I think it's risen back up to around 20.
20,000 wild horses. And this is not something that you naturally see driving along the roads here in Wyoming. Do you have to go to certain places where they're roaming?
Yeah, if you go up around Rawlins and you go down towards Muddy Gap, Jeffrey City, you'll see them all over the roads there. But that's the main herd areas, is up in the High Desert District, Rock Springs, Sweetwater County.
Sure.
Out there.
Now, if somebody's watching this and they say, "Oh, good, let's go pet a wild Mustang," that's probably not a good idea, is it?
Probably not. You know, you never know what might happen. There's 9 times out of 10 they're going to run away before you ever get close enough. But there are stud horses that they'll come after you, especially if you're mounted and you're horseback out there. They've got a territory and a herd to protect, and they can give you some troubles. But most of the time, pretty skittish, and they'll kind of take off on you.
And they're pretty territorial, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. You can actually see they do stud piles, and it's their feces, and they'll mark their territory. You'll be driving down the road and you'll just see piles of stud poop all up and down the highway, and some of them will be this tall, some of them will be little, but that's how they mark their grounds.
Wow. So they set a poop boundary out there.
Yep. Yep.
That's kind of funny. So tell me, Nick, again, how did you get into this?
Well, my dad came from a background where they ran guest stables called Sombrero Stables over by Craig, Colorado, and Steamboat, Estes Park, Grand Lake.
So he grew up in Colorado then?
Yeah,
okay.
He grew up in Meeker, and the ranch, the main headquarters of the ranch is in Big Gulch in Browns Park, Colorado, just west of Craig. And they were constantly breaking horses. They were buying, selling, trading. They ran about 2,000 head of horses and leased them out. So when we moved here, he thought it'd be a good idea for us to start out as a couple of young 13, 14-year-old kids to go get some Mustangs because they were cheap, and then get them broke, and we can sell them and kind of start on a livelihood and have our own income. And so we picked a couple of them out, and we fell and clamored and debacled our way through the training process and kind of trial by fire, and we got them broke, and I ended up selling mine to my cousin.
But you kept your dad amused, though.
It did, yeah, and Dad, he sure enjoyed helping and watching, But and it was fun for us. We were in football and everything else, so it was, we were all for it, and when we adopted those horses, somebody told us about this contract they were putting out to train Mustangs. So Dad bid on it and a couple other people, and anyway, long story short, that was 1998 when we were awarded our first contract, and we've been doing it ever since. So I went on to college and got an education in equine management and really started to refine my training, performance horses and things like that. And just I've been doing that ever since.
And where did you go to college, Nick?
National American University in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Okay.
I went there on a rodeo scholarship. I steer wrestled for the college, and then they would bring you horses from clients to the barn. You would start them in the freshman class, and then you would go on up from colt starting, halter breaking, on into performance horse training when you were in your senior year.
Sure. Now, when you were in college and doing all these fun things like that, did you ever think to yourself, wow, I'm getting actually paid to do something like this? I mean,
yeah.
You got a job that most kids across the country only dream about, of becoming an actual cowboy, which is, what do you think of that song, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys?
Yeah. Yeah.
And here I am with a true Wyoming cowboy.
Well, I'm a fair weather cowboy. I sure like my barn.
Yeah, I do too. Wisconsin in the morning when it's 20 degrees below zero, nothing better than walking out. The snow doesn't crunch, it breaks. And you get out and you open that barn door and you get that warm dairy smell and that feel, there's nothing better in the whole world,
Yep.
So, yeah, a lot can be said for that. A lot of the millennials growing up in the cities don't have any idea.
Right.
So you guys got your first taste of this, and it just got into your blood.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot more lucrative than raising 80 head of cows on our ranch. This was all we could really handle at the time. And then it got to be really rewarding, where you got to meet all these people and you got to hear the history of the horses that you started. And they're sending you videos and photos. Kayla's built a list of past people we've adopted to, and they send us happy adopter photos. And that was probably one of the more rewarding parts about it was actually seeing your product years down the road. So
yeah, that's just like raising your own kids and watching them grow up and become productive. When you gather the Mustangs, you were telling me that you build a corral, put food into the corral, and then within a week you can pretty much board them and get them into the trailers and things. And then once you get them into the trailers, do you take them back here to the satellite, or you take them out to the ranch?
No, and that's actually all done by another contractor that the BLM hires.
Okay.
They'll come out with the panels and the corrals, and then they actually will take those horses to a BLM facility. It's usually Rock Springs. The horse will get vaccinated. It'll get a neck brand, which is basically its social security number. Then it gets a set of papers printed out. The paper will tell where it's from, when it was born, when its vaccines were.
How in the world can they know where that horse was born, or when that horse was born, when it's a wild horse out on the range?
Well, they do a herd count, and they'll fly it, and they'll have a certain number of horses that can be in each herd area. So they'll go in that spring, and they'll be like, all right, all the mares have had babies, we need to get them all. They'll raise their babies to 6 months, and they need to be weaned off the mothers so they don't obviously start inbreeding and things like that. So they know that herd, and they'll be following it. So they'll bring that whole herd in. They're going to miss a few here or there, but the majority of them, they'll get those babies off every year, and then they'll be like, okay, we know that this baby was born this spring, so they just put.
It's a guesstimate.
Yeah,
They don't have exact birthdays. But
Right.
Yeah.
Unless they hit one right on when they're watching it being born.
Yeah. So.
The area now, Wyoming, you said there's about 20,000. You also have wild Mustangs in Nevada, Colorado, Idaho, correct? Yeah. So there's still a lot of wild Mustangs here out in the West.
There is. Yes, there is.
Arizona,
Oregon.
California, Oregon.
And who dictated this program to pretty much save the horses?
Well, that would be our great and all-knowing government.
Okay.
So basically what they did was they took the horses away from the ranchers that knew how to manage them and were doing a really good job, and said, we know what we're doing and we're going to do a lot better job, and now we basically have an epidemic of excess horses.
An epidemic of excess horses, but you've also got the threat of disease out there, don't you? Tell me a little bit about that. I know with the deer, The big fear is the chronic wasting disease.
Yep.
And what's the big killer out there on the range for these horses?
It doesn't seem to be anything yet, and that seems to be the problem. That they're going to get to a number big enough that eventually something's, going to start wiping them out. We've had horses, that have had eyeballs a little lower than one, a little higher, big old dome foreheads.
I graduated with kids like that from
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah, but I mean, and then you bring one of those in a corral and you try to train it, it doesn't remember anything, So, in order to keep good horse flesh out there and keep the bottom of the horse market from bottoming out, they need to have good homes and get out of there.
Right. Some regulation. How much does it cost? You said that the organization picks them up, and then you go to, let's say, a holding facility in Rock Springs and pick your horses at that point.
Yeah.
And how many do you typically take every year?
What do we average? 60 to 100
Yeah.
every year that we personally at the Mantle facility have trained and adopted. We've averaged that number for the last 21 years.
Between 60 and 100?
Yeah.
And Kayla, you were saying something to me yesterday about this year. It's going to be a little tougher rehoming because of, and you kind of went so fast that you talked about the organization and why this is closed, and now you have to you get paid for rehoming the horses, correct?
Yeah. So you can do adoptions through the BLM and adopt these horses in different ways. It can be a competitive bid. It can be a private adoption here at our place. Different things like that. With the COVID pandemic, things are looking a little bit different this year. As most people know, Cheyenne Frontier Days was one of our major revenue sources, and it is unfortunately closed for this season. Which means,
So you sold your horses there?
yeah, we'd take about 20 to 22 head of a mixture, halter started, and riding horses every year, and adopted them out there in a live competitive auction bid on the last day. And people from all over the United States would come to adopt our horses. This year's going to look a little bit different. As we say here in the West, if you get bucked off, you get back on again. So, it doesn't do any good to be mad that Cheyenne Frontier Days is closed. We're just going to have to figure out another way, whether
Sure.
that means, we have to do twice the amount of horses between now and then, things like that. But I pride on the people of Wyoming. We always figure it out. We work together. We find a plan, and that's what we're going to do here at Mantle's Wild Horses.
Sure. When you pick up these horses, does it cost you anything for these horses that you pick up, or is it all part of the overhead grant that you just your cooperation with them, or your contract with them is that you will take these horses and you will train these horses and then you will rehome these horses? So they're pretty much not charging you anything for these animals, correct?
Right. Yeah. It's just the 30 pounds of hay a head a day.
Well,
that we pay for. But yeah, the overhead is figured into our contract as far as fuel and
sure.
maintenance and things like that.
$30 a day per head?
30 pounds of hay a day.
30 pounds of...
So I probably average 20 to 25 ton of hay a month. So you're looking at about 100,000 a year just in hay.
Wow. And so far they haven't come up with any fast food restaurants for horses. So,
Sure haven't.
so you're going to have to do the hay.
No,
Do you actually have to do the haying too?
Yeah, we buy all our hay.
Worst job in the world,
Yes,
especially in the middle of August.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that and pulling the rocks out of the field at the beginning of the year.
I was so happy when we went to Round Bales and got a tractor.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
These horses that are at our property are still technically BLM property.
Okay.
The BLM owns all these horses. We don't own them. We're just contracted to feed them, to take care of them, and to train them and adopt them. So that's kind of our process. So when you adopt a wild horse from the BLM, you pay a fee. The base fee is $125. And
That you pay?
no,
That-
like if you were the adopter,
Okay.
you would pay $125, take your horse. You're required to keep it and care for it for 1 year. In that year, they can come do an inspection of your place, of the horse, to ensure that you're fit to care for it.
Sure.
And after that 1-year term comes up, then you get what they call title to the horse. At that point, you would be able to own it, you can sell it, you can trade it, whatever you choose to do with it at that time, you can keep it. But technically, all these horses are still federal government property.
Well, that's a pretty sweet deal. What they say, they're our property, but you guys feed them.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you only get a $120 payment for each horse that you sell.
And that goes to the government. That check is made to the Bureau of Land Management. We have a set fee per horse that we get once these horses are adopted, but unless they get adopted, unless they get trained, then we don't get anything. So it's basically, in a sales aspect, they're giving us a free product other than the feed that we can market for $125
A piece.
a piece. So it's a pretty good marketing scheme for us. You're getting a gentled horse for $125.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So that helps out definitely with the, making it look pretty good for the average buyer.
I mean, if you break this down, Nick, let's say hourly, and all the hours you put in not only caring for these animals, but feeding these animals, and then you're the trainer for all of these animals. So how does it feel to work for like 25 cents an hour?
It feels pretty good, especially when I pay a hired guy $10 an hour, and I'm still putting in just as many hours.
Yeah.
But it is super nice to have Grant helping us, because then I can just do nothing but take horses in and out of the barn, all day, and he can unload hay and feed and and all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, now that Kayla's working at home, it's pretty nice too. But there's definitely been some super stressful, overwhelming points. Frontier days every year is usually one I'm always procrastinating and behind, and those horses have to meet a certain standard to go there. So that's usually pretty stressful.
It
Middle
is.
of the summer.
Sure.
time.
Which is very rewarding. We have horses at Frontier Days. We've kind of built up a pretty big clientele. And example, we have an outfitting company out of Cheyenne, and they usually adopt one every year at CFD for their pack string. And we can sell those horses anywhere from $125 up to like $6,000.
We
And
did
so,
get 4,900 last year.
yeah, so it's rewarding to see that people
When you sell them on auction.
want our horses.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there are people that'll just come and say we want a horse, and then you just charge them the $125 or whatever the fee is for that. Now I also know that if people do come and buy a horse and want to rehome a horse, that they can in turn turn around and board that horse here. Is that correct?
The horse can stay here for, I think, a month, free of charge, but they do have to come pick that horse back up here. I'm just not set up for boarding.
Okay. So they can't pay you to board their horse then after the first month?
I haven't done that in the past.
Okay.
I get stressed about another horse hurting that person's horse. They're going to get chewed on. They're going to get kicked. They're going to get beat up.
Sure.
So if you need to, have your horse shipped or something like that, we will definitely take that into consideration. The horse can stay here, like I said, for up to a month or more, until you can arrange shipment.
Sure.
And the BLM does have semis that go back to the eastern states from here. They'll go to Nebraska, and then they go to Illinois, and then they get dispersed out through wherever else.
So people can adopt this. How far away have you ever rehomed a horse?
Germany?
You've sent a horse to Germany?
Yeah, we've sent a few horses to Germany.
So actually that's going to be a little more than $125
Yeah,
price
it's about
tag.
$10,000 a horse, I believe. To
Yeah,
put 'em on the boat.
to ship and everything?
Yeah, but we did some from New York last year at Frontier Days. We've been to Beaumont, Texas, and Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we've had people adopt horses from Canada, Alaska. It's just, all over Florida.
The
You wouldn't
East
believe-
Coast is a big clientele
Yeah.
for wild horses. They don't
Sure.
have them there. They want them. So a lot of our horses do get adopted on the internet and they get shipped.
What's the advantage or disadvantage of, let's say, adopting a wild horse as to a domesticated horse?
The main advantage with the Mustang is you've got a very hardy animal, great feet. You should never need to put shoes on it. They can survive on almost nothing.
They're strong.
They're very strong. Your difference, I guess your disadvantage would be that they're very stubborn. They need constant training. They need a routine. They need to be reminded of, what their job is. They need to make sure they know they have a job. And they're a lot of maintenance as far as that goes.
Well, they're wild animals, and they've learned
Yep.
how to test boundaries.
Yep.
They've learned how to survive without the help of people.
Yep.
I think they're always gonna have that mindset was, yeah, you're a nice person,
Right.
but I didn't need you before, and I've gotten along fine, and now I can
Right.
do it again. So
Yeah.
you've got to gain that confidence. But I've watched you train, Nick, and you turn these horses in that are wild into pretty docile animals with some of your training techniques, and that you've learned in college and picked up along the way through seminars and things like this. And it's just amazing that that you do that. And we talked also, that there's different training methods for different psyches of the animal, whether it's a rebellious animal or whether it's a scared animal.
Yeah.
And the one we looked at today, she was very scared. She was scared of everything.
Yeah.
You noticed the fact that when she was scared, she'd run to the training horse, which is
Yeah.
what they were used to out on the range. Is
Yeah.
they would run to each other. There's a confidence in the pack.
Yeah, that is their comfort. That's their survival. Everything relies on that herd.
Right.
And you don't leave it. When one runs, they all run.
Yeah.
And those things.
It's like antelope.
traits-
I was
yeah.
gonna say it's like seeing
Yeah,
a wild
it is.
animal,
So,
deer, antelope,
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
I took my other Mustang here to gather my family's guest horses over in Craig, Colorado, and they do a big horse drive every year. And I mean, there's 500 horses coming at full blow down the road, and it was all I could do to hold him back. I mean, he is raring and squealing and dancing sideways, and my big black horse, my appendix bred horse, he'll stand there just as quiet and easy because he knows the deal, and unless I ask him, he's not going to get too worked up about it.
Sure, he's a training horse. He looks at those Mustangs and say, "I'll have my day with you."
That's right.
He looks them right in the eyes and backs them off. I'll see you down the road. But yeah, that's interesting that you have those different techniques and things like this. As far as shoeing a Mustang, you can shoe a Mustang, correct? But you really don't have to, because they were pretty much bred in that wild for that kind of terrain, correct?
Yeah. Their feet are super hard. We trim them, and sometimes it's all you can do with both hands on the nipper, just to get that foot trimmed off. And that was another thing in college. We study a lot of feet, and it was no shoes is good news. And if you can keep a horse barefoot, then that's naturally how their feet are supposed to work. So
That's good.
depending on your terrain, I guess if you're going to go ride through a super rocky deal where there's lots of real sharp rocks, you might want to put some shoes on. But yeah, I've never shot any of mine.
Huh. And their legs are a little bit stronger, and they're a little more sure-footed out on terrain, aren't they, than regular domesticated horses?
Yeah,
Not used to that.
Just depends on where your horse grew up.
Sure.
I got two horses that grew up, one behind Laramie Peak and another one over behind Freddie Myers, and they lived out there their whole lives barefoot in the rocks.
Sure.
And I trust them to go almost anywhere. Now, I've had a lot of Mustangs that are born in captivity that have never been outside that are absolutely terrifying. And you're like, no. Just because he's a Mustang doesn't mean you can just go pale mail across and down the mountain.
Yeah.
They've got to relearn all that stuff.
Sure. Sure. Now, you two, you youngsters here, are doing amazing things with not only a satellite ranch but also on the main ranch there. Kayla, you do the business aspect here on the farm, don't you? On the ranch.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you do here.
Our books and our paperwork.
And you do some training too, right?
Sometimes I do a lot of training on my husband. Does that count?
Does it work?
10 years later, I'm still training.
Yeah.
That
Well, you know,
Mustang streak.
it's that Mustang stank rubbed off on him. You know.
Right.
So okay. So tell me about what you do.
I to do all of our bookwork, our paperwork, make sure that the adopters are happy. I also do most of our videos on Facebook. A lot of people want to see his training, want to see what he's doing with their horses before they get them or before they bid on them or things like that. So I try to do a lot of video footage of him doing his thing, and that way people can watch it all across the country.
Sure.
So I do that. I also have a day job though. So
And what do you do on your day job?
I work for the Wyoming Business Alliance. I'm
Okay.
their financial manager and office manager there. So I work here from home, but it's a wonderful company based out of Cheyenne.
And you were born and raised here in Wheatland, correct?
Yes.
And so you're a Wheatland girl, born and raised, and you graduated from Wheatland High School.
Yep.
Where did you go to college to get this business sense that you have?
I went to college at the University of Wyoming and graduated there with agricultural business economics degree, and I got a minor in international agricultural economics.
Okay, and when you went to college, was that before you got married?
Yes.
So isn't it funny how you were being prepared
I know. That is.
for your career?
Yep.
And you had no clue that he was coming down the road
Yep.
on this wild Mustang?
Right?
So tell me a little bit about how you guys met.
Well, we were playing softball here in town, and shoot, I was bachelor pad here. We had holes in the walls and parties at night, and it never seemed to end. And I just saw her sitting on the tailgate and watching the game one day, and I'm like, who is that? Why do I not know her by now?
And you were born and raised here too, right?
I was born in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I lived in Colorado in 10 different places, Montana in 7 different places. And
Where'd you go to high school then?
Huh?
He
Where'd
went
you
to
go?
high school
I
here.
did go to
Oh,
high
you did
school
go?
here.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
my
But we're
graduated
6
from
years
there.
apart, so we
Okay.
weren't ever in school together.
Okay.
He's much older.
Yeah, I'm an older, wiser gentleman.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that usually works better.
But yeah, we moved around a lot when I was a kid. I think we moved 35 times before we finally ended up settling down here.
What did your dad do just
Well-
He wasn't an army brat.
No.
But we had hunting in Craig in the winter and Steamboat, and then guest stables in Grand Lake and Estes Park in the summer and the spring. So you're moving from ranch house to ranch house to ranch house. And for a couple months in the summer, we got to go live like 75 miles from town, no running water, electricity, and just live like wild little heathens up in the mountains.
We used to like that. We used to like that growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the
Yeah, it was
best.
great. Sweetest water I've ever drank comes out of a lead pipe, tapped into the rock wall,
Nice and cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cold, sweet. So those are always pretty awesome memories.
Sure.
But my grandfather died, and we kind of lost our role in the whole outfitting and that deal. And Dad always just wanted his own ranch and do his own thing. So we actually moved to Iowa, where my mom's from, and we lived there for about 5 years.
What part of Iowa?
Adel, it's about 60 miles west of Des Moines.
Okay.
Up in the hills.
Yeah. See, I managed a newspaper in northwest Iowa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, up in the corner there, where I was 10 minutes from Nebraska border and 10
yeah.
minutes from the South Dakota border, and then 40 minutes from the Minnesota border. So I was
Oh, yeah.
kind of right up in that corner there. But I'm not going to let you off the hook here. So you see this girl sitting on a pickup truck
Yeah.
on the tailgate,
Yeah.
and mustered all of your confidence.
Yeah.
And what happened?
And I was full of swagger. I've been in the gym every day, getting my bastard body on, and she kind of smiled and we BS for a little bit, and then she just kind of ran off and ignored me, and so I was like, boy, that seems like a challenge. I better go ahead and keep chasing that.
Did you have to
little
go get the training horse?
bit. I did. I had to run her down, and she met me in Laramie. We were supposed to go on a date, and she showed up, and she may not have been impressed at what state I was in, so she ditched me there too, and I was like, whatever, kind of go on about my hoorah, and then I ended up going skiing in Steamboat. And I was like, you want to go skiing? She's like, sure. And her mom was telling her, what are you doing? And this guy's crazy, and we've all heard about him, and
Which he was.
blah, blah, blah. And her friends told me there's no way you don't have a chance with this chick. And so I was like, oh yeah, definitely, challenge accepted now. Don't tell me. And yeah, so we went snowboarding together, and I got tired of waiting for her, so I left her on the mountain. I'm like, yeah, paybacks. Here we go, you know. Yeah, and I ended up ratchet strapping the double beds together, so we didn't have to sleep like we were in a dorm room. And been together ever since.
That's pretty awesome. Now, okay, Kayla, and I've heard his side of the story. But did you always think in your mind, you know, that Mustangs are probably the coolest animals to own? They're rugged. They you know, they got good foundations. You know, they're little rebellious, but they're just too cool to turn down. Did you ever think about that when you were dating him?
No,
No.
not really. He pretty much ruined me. He put me on some terrible ones that bucked me off, and
I'm talking about him.
he bucked me off a time or two.
There's the Mustang right there. You got the wild horse right here. You got the
It's
one
kinda
that
like
trains the
dog
wild horses.
You gotta hit with the newspaper. Like, hit that. No, I wasn't too interested at first, but you know, they grew on me a little bit. He's a pretty good guy, I guess. We've been together 9.5 years, something like that. And
So almost a decade.
Yep.
Well, good for you guys.
Been married 6, just had an anniversary last week, so
And how does this work with a husband and wife working together in the same business? I know that you're never supposed to decorate. You're never supposed, what did he say?
It's so good. Like, I am so unorganized with my paperwork, and I don't have Facebook because somebody in my past will find me or something. So I live vicariously through my wife, and she is so good at it. I'm terrible at it. So all I have to do is just do the dumb work. Just go do your job and send it to her, and she gets it all done. So yeah, she's the foundation of this Mustang. She puts the foundation in our business.
So we can call this episode Beauty and the Beast then. Pretty much. Well, I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for coming on Homespun with us here. And it's been an eye-opener here. And again, if anybody wants to rehome one of the Mustangs, they can just give you a call, right? Or do you have a website?
Yeah, you can get on the BLM's website and you can fill out an application to become approved to adopt. And once you're an approved adopter, then you're more than welcome to come out and pick out a horse, and I'll start it.
we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have email.
And your Facebook is under what?
Mantle's Wild Horses.
Mantle's Wild Horses.
Yep.
That's a
And-
great site to go to.
Yep, Instagram posts as well, and our phone number is plastered out there, but our email, mantle0345@yahoo.com, is a good way to get in touch with us. Phone's not always great because we don't always have it on, but you're more than welcome to call or text us as well.
Sure. Well, again, thank you guys. Beautiful couple. Just living the dream here. I mean, you've got to be the envy of most of the people that look at you. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, "Oh my God, I'm divorcing my husband." No, I'm just, you know.
Wait till I get up out of this chair and you see how much it hurts me.
How many times have you been tossed? More times than
I'm
you
gonna
want to
knock
kick?
on wood. I have not been bucked off since I started riding college bucking horses in college, and that's the last time I was bucked off was on an actual bucking horse at a rodeo, which I found out I was not near as good at when I don't have my eyelash to hold on to. But let's knock on wood. I haven't been bucked off since 2006.
Yeah. But you're in that saddle all day long.
Yeah, and I spend a lot of time getting them so they don't want to buck before I get off.
Right. So sometimes the romance of the cowboy and the Old West is lost in 12-hour days in the
A
saddle,
little
isn't it?
bit, and 20, 30 miles in that round pen
Yeah.
tends to,
Get a little old.
yeah, I'm just like, just stand there so I can come and pet you. That's all, I just want to pet you.
Well, it worked for your wife, so.
Right.
Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All right, bye.
Gets nervous and leaves.
Okay, Nick, how do you spell your last name, Nick?
M-A-N-T-L-E.
Mantle, Nick Mantle.
Yep.
And Nick, you're 36 years old, and you've got a lot of responsibilities, not only running a ranch and a satellite, but how in the world did you learn how to pick up and train wild Mustangs?
I guess it was actually kind of just trial by fire, really. Dad had done it for years, and when he was younger, before we were around, and he heard that you could adopt a horse, so he said, well, I think I was 13, Brian, my brother, was 15, and we go down here, and I didn't know anything about a good-looking horse as far as conformation went, and I picked out this ugly little jug-headed bay horse, and he got a big old black horse, and you know, we kind of experimented, and you know, Dad taught us a lot of the old school ways that he'd grown up with, which was pretty rough, like tie him down, blindfold, get on before we kind of developed this natural horsemanship, or whatever you want to call it.
Whispering.
Yeah, whispering. Yeah, so you know, we got these two little Mustangs, and we ended up getting them broke. I could ride mine pretty good. Brian's horse, that sucker was always jumping over fences, bucking him off, and he stayed pretty wild. We called him Waldo because he'd get out and we'd lose him, and he'd be like, "Where's Waldo?" And it was actually when we adopted those two horses at that adoption that Dad had met somebody that he knew from his past, and they mentioned that they're going to do this trial contract with the BLM to train Mustangs, and so we bid on it, and Dad ended up winning the contract. And then it was like videos and internet and learning as many training styles as we could without having to, you know, rope and choke stuff down and tie them up. And you know, that's where we started listening to Ray Hunt and Buck Bannerman and Clinton Anderson, Pirelli. You know, everybody's got basically the same idea of pressure and release, and then there's different ways of going about doing it. So we just start with what works and develop it. And Brian Newbert, he grew up around Ray Hunt and the Dorances, which are like the legends of this natural horsemanship starting, and he would come to clinics at our house. We learned a ton from him. Really useful stuff that you put in your tool bag for when you're out here. And then I went on to college, to an equine college, and really refined my training and actually learned you know, how to train some performance horses and reining horses, and you know, how to work their body and get collection and lead changes, and you know, so I could go on and make a career out of it.
Sure.
And,
So
you know,
today, what you're going to be doing for us here is you've got a Mustang here. And how old is this Mustang that you've got, that you're sitting on top?
This guy actually, this isn't a Mustang, this is my thoroughbred.
Okay.
My Mustang, he's got a cough. And,
Okay.
So he's on some antibiotics right now. I didn't figure I'd push his lungs today.
Sure.
But the other one out there, to use him, this is,
Now you got a big boy out there.
yeah.
That's a big horse.
Yeah,
he must be around 16 hands.
Yeah, I think he is right at 16. He's just a little over 16.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a pretty cool horse, really easy
Pretty
going.
horse. And so how do you have to train the training horse, don't you?
Yes.
And how hard is that, or how easy is that? And once you get one though, you got them for years. I mean.
Yep. And I actually trained that horse for two different sets of people. The first people rejected him; they didn't like him. Second people, it was too much horse for them. He was a little bitty guy, and he had a real hard time getting on and off, and the horse kind of got aggressive with him and kind of got him buffaloed. So I actually had adopted him twice and ended up getting him back with the title, and I've had him ever since. I've had him for 5 years or so.
Yeah, he's a beauty. He's a beauty.
But, you know, basic cues. You put your leg on. You ask your horse to move off your feet, front end, back end. Now, these are all tools you need built in, so that when I go up to this horse, I don't have to necessarily ride right at her and scare her off. I can tell him that I want you to just come in there sideways, real slow and easy, and it's just a light little touch with my leg, and then I can just drop my reins, set easy, let her know. You can see she's licking her lips. I mean, she's comfortable. She's letting me know this is an okay space. So your saddle horse actually starts to feed off of this horse, and it starts to remember what it's supposed to do. And I've been using this horse for years and years doing this stuff, so he's pretty good at it. And I've got other younger horses that are learning.
Sure.
The biggest thing is when you rope their feet, and that rope is slapping a lot of your horses, so it gets scared to move out of the way. You see that little movement bothered her, so I need to watch her, and if something bothers her, she's telling me I need to work on that. So, I'm going to have to reach over there and touch her eventually. That's may not be my goal. It may take from here, then to here, and then to here before she's comfortable with that arm movement. So I'm watching her eyes, I'm watching her body, and getting her comfortable with this arm movement. Okay, that was a little too much for her.
And how old is she?
She is a 2-year-old, I believe.
And where did you pull her from?
She's a Wyoming horse.
Okay.
I'm not sure where she came from. I'd have to read her neck band and then look up her papers.
Right.
But she was one of the prettiest ones out there. I really like her conformation. I like her nice little head. So I wanted to get her in, but she was just, so scared. Bounce off the walls, crash into things. So it was pretty neat to see her calm down as fast as she did.
Now, how long? You've been training her 3 days, you said?
Yeah, this will be about her 3rd session. I gave her some time off and started some other ones.
She's
so this is actually her first time back in probably a week and a half.
She may be a little skittish too because I'm here and I got the camera, and she's probably not trying to figure out what I'm doing here.
Yeah, she is.
They get so curious, especially when you bring a camera out, and some will actually mug for the camera. Some think it's something to eat, and oh, that's great right there, Nick. That is good.
Girl.
She's starting to settle right down.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take you to actually train her? Get her ready to rehome.
Halter broke. She'd probably be done in 3 weeks from now.
Okay.
To get her broke to ride, probably looking at 45, 50 days.
Okay.
Maybe.
And you will bring them to a place where they're green broke here, correct? And you don't take them any farther than that?
Right, so walk, trot, stop, lope, turn around, back up, lead, load in a trailer, and the lower 4 feet, easy to catch.
Okay. Now, when you're out there gathering the Mustangs from the wilds, how in the world do you corral those horses into trailers?
The thing about the Mustang is that there's not very much food out there for them. So all you got to do is build a big corral and dump hay in it and leave it for a week, and then you just walk out and shut the gate. Then you build an alleyway, you sort off the ones that stay, take the younger ones and back up to the alleyway and
Wow.
load them in the trailer.
And the job is done, huh?
Yep, job's done.
So how much patience do you have to have for a job like this?
A lot. A lot. There's a lot of breaks. Sometimes you just need to go to the lake, you go swimming for a little bit, go do something else. My instructor at college has always said, if it doesn't make sense, you shouldn't be doing it. And I'd be doing something with my horse. He's like, what are you trying to do? And if I didn't answer, he'd be like, get off your horse, go sit down and think about it. Because unless you're,
Focused.
and you got to have the same cues, you got to have a goal in mind so that when he does the right thing, you can give that reward. And so a lot of times, it's just sit down and really just try to mentally break down what's going through this horse's mind.
Yeah. And it's like dealing with children at first.
Yes.
I mean, children that have had no discipline.
Yes.
That's got to be rough, man.
Yeah, and especially when you take them away from all their buddies. There's horses out there that'll come out and let you scratch them and pet them, and you isolate them in here, and they're a whole different.
Yeah.
They're a whole different horse,
Lose their confidence in the solitary.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Well, Nick, let me see you work with this little one for a little bit here, and
so my idea is just to push her around, just like you're lunging a horse.
sure.
Let her know that when she wants to turn and face me like that, she gets her nice big reward, which her reward is me getting out of her space. Okay, so I start a lot of them, most all of them horseback. just in case they are aggressive or they have some issues. Helps them to be comfortable. And then I can get off my horse and transfer that to the ground and see what I get. So if she wants to let me come up and pet her, that's fine too. Because she knows this is her, hey, don't push on her. She knows this is a good spot because I've given her a break in the past right here. And this is the first step I need to get her good with so I can get a halter around her head. So I'm thinking about what my next step is, and I'm trying to prepare her for that. So she's telling me that pressure on her cheek bothers her a little bit. Okay, as you can see, she's not really wanting to move a lot. I need to get her to move so that she can understand that she's not doing the right thing at the moment. Now, when she first got in here, I didn't need anything. All I had to do was step in here and she would move. That was enough pressure for her. Now that she's kind of jumped down, I'm going to use this flag. I'm going to ask her to move around here. So she got real scared.
Yeah.
And then she goes, I'm supposed to face him. That's what I'm supposed to do. If I do that, he'll back off, which I did. So it's really important that when she does make that move, that you're prepared to give her that relief. Otherwise, she'll go, no, that wasn't right. And you just lost 5 steps.
Wow. Horse speak.
So good. She wants to come to me. I'm just going to reward her by moving away. Just always drawing her in and encouraging her to come out and come to me. So she's doing pretty good. I'm going to get off of him and do this on the ground. Let's see if we can't get her haltered.
Have you had her haltered yet at all?
I did, yeah. I had to rope her in order to do that, but stay. Stay.
He's kind of like, but I want to train her.
Hi, pretty girl. A lot of times, all I want is that reach. I want her to reach for me, and I'm going to just super reward that
By backing off.
by just getting clear out of her way.
Huh.
Okay, she offered. Now, if I was to stay there, she's going to leave, and I'm going to send her the wrong message. The message is not leave. The message is stay with me. Okay, now your next stage is to get her to pivot on that front end and disengage the hind end and follow me. So I put pressure there. Good. As soon as she moves that hind end, I get clear out of the way, give her a reward. Now I'm going to ask her to move her shoulders over and go this way. Good. There's one step. I'll reward that. I'm going to cue her with my hands, with my flag. I'm going to send her around, just like I had her on the lunge line. Because you don't have to do that if you don't want. You can just stand there.
She finds comfort in your training horse, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Almost like her crutch.
Yeah. So when I ask for the hip, catch her eye. So you don't have to leave, but you can. 18 years old, still thinks he's old.
And she just follows what he does. You know, I think sometimes, Nick, too, she looks at your training horse and realizes how good you are with that training horse,
Yeah.
and realizes that you would not hurt that training horse, and so she feels a comfort there
Yeah.
with that horse.
Yep,
Boy, they're smart, aren't they?
they are. They really are.
Just as simple as taking away their fear to make
Yeah.
them do what they need to do. Isn't that kind of like the way that it is with all of us? We just take our fear away, how much we can accomplish.
Yeah. Good girl. Good girl.
Look at that. That's awesome.
Good girl.
Well, okay, Nick, let's go sit down with your lovely wife, Kayla, and let's talk a little bit about some of the other aspects of what you do here with the Mustangs.
Okay.
Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that pitter pat? Well, the happy tune is your step. Life can be complete on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid because this rover has crossed over. If I never had a say, I'd be rich as Rockefeller. Dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. I'd have gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave those worries on the doorstep. Just direct those cute little feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that bitter bat and the happy tune that's your step? Life can be complete on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid because this rover has crossed over. If I never had a cent, I'd be rich as Mr. Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. I'd have gold dust at my feet on the sunny, that bright and sunny. Come on with me, honey, to that side of the street.